Let's be honest, we've all been there, working for someone who makes every single day a challenge. And not because the work is tough, but because the leadership is just, well, fundamentally broken. It's a painful universal experience, isn't it? So today, we're going to dive in. We're going to expose the 5 most dangerous types of leaders and, more importantly, show you exactly how to spot them.
You know what's fascinating is that this is not a new problem, not by a long shot. This quote, and get this, it's from a book written over 100 years ago. It just gets right to the heart of the matter. This is the difference a leader makes. It is the vast chasm between apathy and absolute devotion, between just showing up and giving it your all. The stakes, then and now, really couldn't be higher.
And that's because when you boil it all down, leadership isn't just a list of actions you take. It is a direct function of your character. A leader casts a long, long shadow. And the shape of that shadow, whether it nurtures growth or just blocks out the sun, is determined entirely by who they are deep down. Right, so let's meet our first archetype. I call this one the empty suit. This is the leader who, on the surface, seems to have it all together. But when you look closer, underneath there's just this hollow lack of substance. They are true masters of illusion.
And this is the thing about them. For the empty suit, leadership is nothing more than a performance. Their entire professional life is just about looking the part. They don't want to engage with the actual messy realities of the work because their only focus is on keeping that facade from cracking.
So how do you spot one in the wild? You look for this massive red flag, an all-consuming obsession with appearances. They are far less concerned with actually being effective than they are with looking effective. This makes them, as the original text so brilliantly puts it, pitiable slaves to perception.
Okay, moving on to our second type. This one's less about illusion and much more about outright intimidation. Let's meet the petty tyrant. Their main and sometimes only leadership tool is fear.
This leader's entire game plan is built on a foundation of negativity. They create this toxic, high-stress environment where people are genuinely afraid to speak up, to be creative, or to take any kind of risk. In that kind of atmosphere, innovation just dies on the vine, and fearful compliance becomes the only thing that matters.
So what's their telltale sign? It's a reliance on volume and aggression. They shout, they bluster, they intimidate. But you have to see this for what it is. This isn't strength. The original author calls it a thin camouflage for incompetence. And he's spot on.
And now for our third archetype, who is perhaps the most self-obsessed of them all, the glorious narcissist. This is the leader who sees their team not as a group of talented people, but as props, mere extras in the grand, sweeping story of their own success. For them, it really all comes down to this. Their ego is the sun, and they expect everyone else to just orbit around it. This leads to that sense of pomp and vainglory that's a dead giveaway. They will shamelessly hoover up all the credit for team wins while deflecting any and all blame when things go wrong. And here's where it gets truly dangerous. This is the red flag to watch for. A glorious narcissist will not hesitate to sacrifice their own people if it serves their ego or their career. Their only real loyalty is to themselves, which makes them fundamentally untrustworthy as a leader. Okay, next up, we have a leader whose dysfunction doesn't come from ego but from anxiety and a really deep-seated lack of trust. Meet the panicked micromanager. Their need for control is absolutely suffocating for everyone around them. You see, a great leader, they give their team a destination and then trust them to figure out the best way to get there. The micromanager, though, they dictate every single turn. This just crushes initiative, and it sends a really clear message to the team. You are not paid to think. And the giveaway? An obsession with the little things at the expense of the big picture. They get so lost in the weeds, fussing over tiny, insignificant details that the progress of the entire team just grinds to a halt. All right, finally, let's look at our fifth type. Now, this leader isn't scary or arrogant. In fact, they can seem almost too nice. This is the desperate friend, the one who values being liked far, far more than being respected or effective. Their core desire, their whole reason for being, is to be one of the gang. They want to be your best mate, not your boss. And this means they constantly shirk the difficult but necessary responsibilities of leadership, making tough calls, holding people accountable, all in the name of being popular. The red flag to watch for here is a pattern of inconsistency. They'll play favorites, they'll let shoddy work slide, and they'll avoid necessary conflict at all costs. And this pursuit of what can only be called cheap popularity, well, it doesn't create a happy team. It just breeds resentment and eventually chaos.
Okay, so we've met the 5 villains. We've identified their tactics, we know their red flags. But look, just spotting them isn't enough, is it? The real question, the one that really matters, is what on earth do you do about them?
Well, the answer isn't some secret trick for defeating a bad boss. The real antidote, the one that actually creates lasting change, is to first understand what good leadership is, and then to start cultivating it in ourselves.
So the path forward really boils down to 3 core principles. First, you have to cultivate self-awareness. That's the direct antidote to the empty suit's obsession with perception. Second, you have to actively build the self-respect of others, which is the very thing the petty tyrant and the narcissist live to destroy. And third, you have to lead with a genuine vision. That provides the trust and direction the micromanager so desperately lacks.
Ultimately, the whole idea is captured perfectly in this quote from that old text. Now, the language is obviously of its time, but the principle is absolutely timeless. True leadership isn't a zero-sum game. It doesn't win by diminishing people. It succeeds by unlocking the very best in them, by appealing to their better nature, and by making them stronger individuals.
So we'll end on this thought. Whether you're leading a massive company, a small team, or really just leading yourself, leadership is fundamentally an expression of who you are. So after seeing these dangerous archetypes and their antidotes, it is absolutely worth asking yourself, what kind of shadow are you casting?